The interview that should never have happened. Riley Campbell stood outside the glass tower of Harrington Tech Industries, clutching her coffee like a lifeline. The resume in her bag was crumpled from 3 subway rides and 1 near collision with a street vendor. She was 20 minutes late. Her shoe had a broken heel. She was pretty sure her mascara had smudged into raccoon territory. "This is fine," she whispered to herself. Everything is completely fine. It was not fine. Maggie Foster, the silver-haired receptionist with kind eyes and a knowing smile, looked up as Riley burst through the revolving doors. "You must be the 9 o'clock interview. I am so sorry." The train stopped between stations, and then I ran, but my heel broke. And I just need a minute to fix my face before meeting Mr. Harrington. Maggie glanced at the clock showing 9:23, and then at the closed office door behind her. "Honey, you're the 4th interview this week." The last 3 didn't even make it past the first question. What did he ask them? He asked if they knew how to tell time. Riley felt her stomach drop. Oh no. Oh yes. But here's the thing. You showed up anyway. That counts for something. Maggie picked up the phone. "Mr. Harrington, your 9 o'clock is here." Voice crackled through the speaker, cold and precise. 23 minutes late isn't 9 o'clock. Send her home." Ali leaned toward the phone. "Mr. Harrington?" I climbed 12 flights of stairs because the elevator was full. I still stopped to help an elderly woman with her groceries. I can multitask under pressure clearly, since I'm talking to you right now while trying not to panic. Silence. Then come in. Inside the ice castle, Dominic Harrington's office was exactly what Riley expected. Floor-tizzling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her entire apartment. And a man who looked like he had never smiled in his entire life. He was handsome in that dangerous, untouchable way. Dark hair, perfectly styled, sharp jaw, eyes the color of a winter storm. He wore a suit that probably required a small loan to purchase, and his desk was so organized it looked like a museum display. "Sit," he said, without looking up from his computer. Riley sat. The chair was uncomfortable, which she suspected was intentional. Riley Campbell, former elementary school teacher, left teaching after 2 years. Currently working 3 part-time jobs, no corporate experience whatsoever. He finally looked at her. "Why should I hire you?" "Because everyone else is terrified of you, and I'm too exhausted to be scared anymore." His eyebrow lifted slightly. Honesty. Interesting approach. I read the job posting. Executive assistant to the CEO, must be detail-oriented, highly organized, able to work under pressure. And thick-skinned. The thick-skinned part gave it away. "You're difficult. I have high standards. You have a reputation for making grown adults cry in supply closets." Dominic leaned back in his chair, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "And you think you can handle that?" "Mr. Harrington, I spent 2 years teaching 2nd graders who thought glue was a snack and scissors were weapons. I once broke up a fight over who got to be the line leader that nearly resulted in a crayon-based assault. I think I can handle a man who just needs someone to organize his calendar and tell him when he's being unreasonable. I'm never unreasonable." "Fired your last assistant for breathing too loudly. She had a medical condition. I suggested she see a doctor. You suggested it during a board meeting in front of 17 people. Dominic's jaw tightened. "You've done your research." "I spent 3 hours reading everything I could find about you. Public records, business articles, employee reviews on forums where people think they're anonymous." Riley pulled out her phone. "Did you know there's an entire Reddit thread dedicated to surviving as your assistant? It's called the Harrington Hunger Games. Current record holder lasted 6 weeks. 5 weeks. Jackson exaggerated. You remember your assistants by how long they lasted?" "I remember everyone who disappoints me." He closed his laptop with a decisive click. "Tell me 3 reasons you won't quit in the first week." Riley counted on her fingers. 1. I need this job desperately. My student loans are crushing me. And I'm tired of living in an apartment where I can hear my neighbor's entire life through the walls. 2. I actually like organizing chaos. It's satisfying, like solving a puzzle or alphabetizing books. And 3. I don't quit things. Ever. When I was 12, I started a lemonade stand. It failed miserably. I lost money. But I kept it open for an entire summer because I said I would. Neither is firing people for breathing. Yet here we are. For the first time, something flickered across Dominic's face. Not quite a smile, but close. You have a problem with authority. I have a problem with people who abuse authority. There's a difference. Name 3 of my biggest flaws. Riley didn't hesitate. You're controlling to the point of micromanagement. You don't trust anyone to do anything correctly because you assume everyone is incompetent until proven otherwise. And you use coldness as a shield because letting people close means risking disappointment. The room went silent. Maggie's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Harrington, your 10 o'clock is waiting. He ignored it. That last one. What makes you think that? Because I saw your TED Talk from 3 years ago. You talked about innovation and risk-taking, and for 5 minutes, you were passionate and alive. Then you went back to being the Ice King everyone whispers about. Something happened between then and now. Dominic stood abruptly. You're hired. 2-week trial period. No tolerance for lateness after today. No crying in my office. No gossip about me to other employees. And if you last 6 weeks, I'll double your salary. Riley blinked. Just like that? Just like that. Start tomorrow. 7 in the morning sharp. I'll be here at 6:30. Why? Because I don't like barely making it. I like having margin for error. As Riley stood to leave, Dominic called out. Miss Campbell? Yes? Fix your shoe. You're limping, and it's distracting. Riley looked down at her broken heel. I'll add it to my list of things that are falling apart. Get used to it. Everything around me eventually does. The warning in the lobby. Maggie was waiting with a sympathetic smile and a pair of spare flats she kept in her desk drawer. You got the job? How did you know? Because you're still standing and you're not crying. That's more than most achieve. Maggie handed her the shoes. Word of advice, honey? Mr. Harrington isn't mean because he enjoys it. He's mean because he's protecting something. Protecting what? That's what you need to figure out if you want to survive here. Riley changed into the flats, feeling oddly determined. What happened to the person who lasted 5 weeks? Jackson. He figured it out. Got too close. Asked too many personal questions. Dominic fired him before anything could develop. Develop into what? Maggie smiled sadly. Into something that might actually make Mr. Harrington happy. And that, my dear, is the most terrifying thing of all, for a man who has convinced himself he doesn't deserve it. Riley walked out of Harrington Tech Industries with a job she wasn't qualified for. A boss everyone said was impossible. A strange feeling that her life was about to become very complicated. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend. Jamie, remember how I said I needed a miracle? Please tell me you got the job. I got the job. But I think I just signed up for the most challenging experience of my life. More challenging than teaching 7-year-olds. Riley thought about Dominic's cold eyes and the way something vulnerable had flickered behind them when she mentioned his TED Talk. Definitely more challenging. This time, I'm not just teaching someone. I'm going to have to figure out how to help someone who doesn't think he needs help. Sounds impossible. Good thing I don't believe in impossible. As Riley headed home to prepare for tomorrow. Dominic stood at his office window, watching the city below. His phone buzzed with a text from his father. Preston Harrington. Heard you hired another assistant? This one better last. The board is questioning your management capabilities. Dominic deleted the message without responding. He thought about Riley Campbell, her broken shoe, her brutal honesty, and the way she had seen right through him in under 20 minutes. 6 weeks, he muttered to himself. She won't last 6 weeks. But even as he said it, Dominic felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope, and that terrified him more than any board meeting ever could. The first real test Trilly's first week at Harrington Tech was like learning to swim by being thrown into the ocean during a storm. Dominic didn't ease her into the job. He tested her immediately. On day 3, he handed her a stack of contracts at 4 in the afternoon. I need these reviewed, summarized, and organized by tomorrow morning. 7 o'clock. Riley looked at the pile. 47 contracts, each at least 20 pages long. That's 15 hours of work. Then you better get started. She stayed until midnight, survived on vending machine coffee, had the summaries on his desk at 6:45 the next morning. When Dominic arrived at 7, he flipped through her work without expression. You missed a clause in the Henderson contract. Riley's heart sank. She had been so careful. Which clause? The one that doesn't exist. I was testing if you'd actually read them or just skim. He set the papers down. Good work, Miss Campbell. Most people would have panicked and done a sloppy job. You stayed thorough under pressure. Was that really necessary? Yes, because when the real crisis comes, I need to know you won't fall apart. The crisis came sooner than either of them expected. The coffee shop revelation Friday afternoon. Dominic had back-to-back meetings that ran late. Riley noticed he hadn't eaten lunch, and his 3 o'clock coffee had gone cold and untouched. By 6, when the last meeting ended, he looked exhausted in a way that made him seem almost human. Mr. Harrington, Riley said carefully, there's a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Why don't we grab something before you review the quarterly reports? I don't have time for coffee shops. You have time to pass out from low blood sugar in the middle of reading financial documents? He glared at her. I don't pass out. Everyone passes out eventually. It's basic human biology. 5 minutes later, they were at Bean There, a small neighborhood cafe that probably had never seen someone in a $3,000 suit walk through its doors. Dominic looked around like he'd entered a foreign country. When was the last time you went to a regular coffee shop? Riley asked, ordering a sandwich and coffee. I have coffee delivered to my office. That's not what I asked. Dominic was quiet for a moment. 5 years, maybe longer. They sat at a corner table, and Riley watched as he took his first bite of an ordinary sandwich. Something in his expression shifted. Not quite a smile, but softer. This is actually good, he admitted. Regular food usually is. Riley sipped her coffee. Can I ask you something personal? No. Why do you work 16-hour days when you don't have to? You own the company. You could delegate more. Dominic set down his sandwich. Because if I stop working, I have to think about other things. Like what? Like the fact that I built an empire and have no one to share it with. Like how my father only calls when he's disappointed in me. Like how every relationship I've ever had has ended because I apparently don't know how to be a normal human being. He stopped abruptly, looking shocked at himself. Why am I telling you this? Because you're exhausted, and exhausted people tell the truth. Riley leaned forward. Mr. Harrington, you're not broken. You're just lonely. There's a difference. I'm not lonely. I'm focused. You can be both. Before Dominic could respond, his phone rang. His expression changed immediately, going cold and guarded. I need to take this. Stepped outside, and Riley watched through the window as his posture became rigid, defensive. When he came back in, the vulnerable moment was gone, replaced by the Ice King everyone knew. We need to go. There's a problem with the Japanese investors. We have a conference call in 20 minutes. The moment was over, but Riley had seen behind the curtain, and now she understood what Maggie meant about Dominic. Protecting something. He wasn't protecting his company or his reputation. He was protecting his heart. The business trip that changed everything 2 weeks into the job. Dominic announced they were flying to Boston for meetings with potential investors. Riley had never been on a private plane before and tried not to look amazed by the leather seats and the fact that someone served them actual meals with real plates. Stop gawking, Dominic said without looking up from his laptop. It's just transportation. It's transportation with champagne and heated towels. I'm allowed to be impressed? During the flight, Riley noticed Dominic kept rubbing his temples. I get them when I'm stressed. Do you have medication? I left it at home. Riley dug through her bag and pulled out a small bottle. Here, I get migraines too. These help. Dominic looked at the bottle suspiciously. What are they? Over-the-counter pain relievers, not poison. Though considering how this week has gone, you probably wouldn't blame me if they were. He took 2 pills, and Riley dimmed the cabin lights without asking. Close your eyes for 20 minutes. I'll wake you before we land. I don't sleep on planes. Then just rest. Your headache won't get better if you keep staring at spreadsheets. To her surprise, he listened. Dominic closed his eyes, and within minutes, his breathing evened out. Riley watched him sleep, seeing how much younger he looked without the constant tension in his jaw. When they landed in Boston, Dominic woke, looking better. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not making a big deal out of it. The Boston meetings went well until the final investor. Harold Chen asked a question that made Dominic freeze.
Nice.
Mr. Harrington, your company has impressive growth, but your employee retention in upper management is concerning. 3 executives have left in the past year. That suggests internal problems. Dominic's jaw tightened, and Riley could see him about to give a cold, defensive response that would lose them the deal. She jumped in smoothly. Mr. Chen, those 3 executives left for different reasons, all positive. Jennifer Wong started her own consulting firm with our blessing and investment. David Park retired early after his wife's health scare. And we threw him a celebration party with a donation to the charity of his choice. And Robert Kim accepted a position as CFO at a Fortune 500 company. She only got because of the experience and mentorship he received at Harrington Tech. Harold Chen looked impressed. You invest in people even when they leave. We invest in people, period, Riley said, looking at Dominic. Mr. Harrington believes that a rising tide lifts all boats. If his employees succeed, even elsewhere, it reflects well on the company culture he's built. After the meeting, Harold Chen shook both their hands. You have a remarkable assistant, Mr. Harrington. She understands not just business, but people. That's rare. In the car back to the hotel, Dominic was quiet. Finally, he spoke. How did you know all that about my former executives? I asked Maggie. She knows everything. You turned a potential disaster into a selling point, I told the truth. You do invest in people. You're just terrible at showing it. Dominic looked at her for a long moment. Riley, I need to tell you something. What? You've been here 3 weeks? That's already longer than most people last. Is this where you tell me I'm fired? No. This is where I tell you I don't want you to leave. Riley's heart skipped. As your assistant? As anything. I just don't want you to leave. The charity gala disaster. The following Saturday. Riley attended the annual Harrington Foundation charity gala. She wore a borrowed dress from her roommate and felt completely out of place. Among the designer gowns and tuxedos, Maggie found her hiding near the dessert table. Breathe, honey. You look beautiful. I look like I'm playing dress-up in my mother's closet. You look like someone who belongs here. That's when Riley saw Dominic across the room, and her breath actually caught. He wore a classic black tuxedo, and he was laughing at something an elderly woman was saying. Actually laughing. She had never heard him laugh before. That's his grandmother, Maggie whispered. Catherine Harrington. She's the only person who can make him smile like that. Riley watched as a tall, silver-haired man approached Dominic. His entire demeanor changed instantly, going rigid and formal. That's Preston Harrington, Maggie continued. Dominic's father. And that's where all of Dominic's problems started. Riley couldn't hear the conversation, but she could see the tension. Preston's face was stern, disappointed. Dominic's expression became colder with each word. When Preston walked away, Dominic headed straight for the bar. Riley intercepted him. Don't what? Don't drink away whatever your father just said to you. Dominic's eyes flashed with anger. You don't know what he said. I don't need to. I can see it on your face. He criticized you, probably about the company, probably compared you to some impossible standard you could never meet. Because I had a father like that too. Mine left when I was 12, but before he did, nothing I ever did was good enough. Every menace was a failure. Every achievement had a but attached to it. Riley stepped closer. You built an empire, Dominic. You employ 3,000 people. You donate millions to charity. And none of it will ever be enough for him because the problem isn't you. It's him. Dominic stared at her. You called me Dominic. Did I? No one calls me Dominic? It's always Mr. Harrington or Sir. Do you want me to stop? He shook his head slowly. No, I don't want you to stop. The moment hung between them, charged with something neither of them was ready to name. Then Preston's voice cut through the crowd. Dominic, come meet the Fitzpatrick family. Their daughter Amanda just returned from studying abroad. Riley saw the flash of panic in Dominic's eyes. Is he trying to set you up? He does it at every event. Thinks I need to marry someone appropriate and produce heirs like I'm running a dynasty instead of a tech company? Without thinking, Riley grabbed his hand. Dance with me. What? Dance with me. Right now. It'll give you an excuse to avoid Amanda Fitzpatrick and her family. Dominic let her pull him onto the dance floor. His hand settled on her waist, and they began to move to the music. He was surprisingly good at dancing. You're full of surprises, Riley said. Boarding school required ballroom dance classes. I hated every minute. You don't seem to hate this. Dominic looked down at her, and something in his expression made Riley's heart race. No, I don't hate this at all. They danced through 2 songs, and Riley became aware of people watching them. Whispers started circulating. By the 3rd song, Preston Harrington was staring at them with an expression that Riley couldn't quite read. When the music ended, Dominic didn't immediately let go. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For rescuing me again. That's what assistants are for. You're more than an assistant, Riley, you know that, right? Before she could answer, Preston appeared beside them. Dominic, we need to talk, privately. Dominic's jaw tightened. Father, this is Riley Campbell, my executive assistant. Preston's eyes swept over Riley with cold assessment. Charming. Dominic, now. Riley squeezed Dominic's hand. It's okay. I'll wait. She watched them walk away, seeing how Dominic's shoulders tensed with each step. Whatever Preston was about to say, it wouldn't be good. Maggie appeared beside her again. You're in trouble, honey. Why? Because Preston just realized his son has feelings for someone he didn't approve? And Preston Harrington doesn't like things he can't control. Riley felt a chill run down her spine. What will he do? Whatever it takes to protect his vision of the Harrington legacy, even if it means destroying his son's chance at happiness. Across the ballroom, Riley saw Dominic and Preston in heated conversation. She couldn't hear the words, but she could see Dominic's face turning red, his hands clenching into fists. Then Preston said something that made Dominic go completely still. And Riley knew that whatever had just been said would change everything. The ultimatum Monday morning. Dominic didn't come into the office. Riley called his cell phone 5 times, sent 3 texts, and finally contacted Maggie in a panic. He's at the family estate, Maggie said grimly. Preston called an emergency board meeting. About what? About you. Riley felt her stomach drop. What do you mean about me? Maggie handed her a tablet showing a gossip website. The headline read, Harrington airs secret romance with Secretary Rock's corporate world. Below were photos from the charity gala. Riley and Dominic dancing, his hand on her waist, looking at each other with expressions that made their feelings obvious to anyone watching. Oh no, Riley whispered. Oh yes. Preston is arguing that your relationship is unprofessional and that Dominic's judgment is compromised. He wants you fired. Can he do that? He owns 30% of the company, and he has 3 board members in his pocket. Maggie's phone buzzed. The meeting's over. Dominic's on his way here? When Dominic walked into the office an hour later, he looked like he'd been through a war. His tie was loosened, his hair messy from running his hands through it, and his eyes were blazing with fury. Riley, my office. Now, she followed him in, closing the door behind her. What happened? My father gave me an ultimatum. Either you're fired by end of business today, or he'll force a vote of no confidence and try to remove me as CEO. Riley felt like she'd been punched. Then fire me. What? Fire me, Dominic. Your company is more important than my job. No, his voice was steel. It's not. Yes, it is. You built this. You can't let him take it away because of me. Dominic crossed the room until he was standing inches from her. Riley, do you know what I realized this weekend? I've spent 10 years building a company I don't even enjoy running. I go home to an empty apartment. I eat meals alone. I work 16-hour days because I have nothing else in my life worth going home to. Dominic. Then you walked into my office 3 weeks ago with a broken shoe and the audacity to call me out on my nonsense, and suddenly I had a reason to come to work that had nothing to do with profit margins or board meetings. Riley's heart was pounding. What are you saying? I'm saying that I would rather lose this company than lose you. I'm saying that my father is wrong. I'm saying that for the first time in my life, I'm choosing what makes me happy over what makes everyone else comfortable.
Oh.
But the board vote won't happen. Because I have 51% ownership, my father can try to force a vote, but he can't win. The worst he can do is make things difficult. Dominic took her hands. Riley Campbell, you have turned my entire world upside down in less than a month. You've challenged me, frustrated me, impressed me, and made me feel things I didn't think I was capable of feeling. Like what? Like hope. Like joy. Like the possibility that maybe I'm not as broken as I thought I was. Riley felt tears forming. You're not broken at all. You're just human. Human who is completely falling for his assistant. Former teacher Riley corrected, smiling through her tears. I was a teacher before I was an assistant. You're still teaching me. Every single day. Before either of them could say anything else, the office door burst open. Preston Harrington stood there, flanked by 2 board members. Dominic, this is inappropriate. You're making a scene over a girl you barely know. Dominic turned to face his father, and Riley saw something shift in his posture. He wasn't the scared boy seeking approval anymore. He was a man who had finally found something worth fighting for. Her name is Riley, and I know her better than you've ever known me. Preston's face reddened. You're going to throw away everything I built for some secretary with no pedigree, no connections. No what, father? No money? No prestigious family name? You're right. Riley has none of those things. What she does have is integrity, compassion, intelligence, and the courage to be honest even when it's uncomfortable. She's everything you taught me not to value, and she's everything that actually matters. This is ridiculous. You've known her for 3 weeks. I've known you for 34 years, and she understands me better than you ever tried to. The room went silent. Riley could see the pain flash across Preston's face before he masked it with anger. If you pursue this, you're on your own. No family support. No backing from my connections. You'll be choosing her over the Harrington legacy. Dominic looked at Riley, then back at his father. Then I choose her. Every single time. Preston's jaw tightened. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, now Dominic said quietly. The biggest mistake of my life was spending 34 years trying to earn the approval of someone who will never give it. I'm done making that mistake. Preston turned and walked out, the board members scrambling after him. When the door closed, Dominic sagged slightly and Riley rushed to his side. Are you okay? I just told my father to leave. In front of witnesses, it'll be all over the business news by tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Dominic pulled her into his arms. I should have done it years ago. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other while the enormity of what had just happened settled over them. What happens now? Riley asked. Now we figure out how to run a company together while dating, which is going to be complicated and messy and probably violate several HR policies. You're willing to risk all that? Dominic pulled back to look at her. Riley, you're the first person who ever made me want to risk anything. So yes, I'm willing. 3 months later, the board meeting room was packed. Every seat was filled, and several people stood along the walls. Riley sat in the back, watching as Dominic presented the quarterly results. Revenue is up 18%. Employee satisfaction scores have increased by 32%. We've launched 3 new products, all ahead of schedule and under budget. And our company culture has been featured in 5 major business publications as an example of progressive leadership. One board member raised his hand. Mr. Harrington, too. What do you attribute these remarkable improvements? Dominic smiled. Honestly, I started listening to people. I delegated instead of micromanaging. I took time to eat lunch instead of working through it, and I hired the right person to keep me accountable. He looked directly at Riley, and she felt her cheeks warm as several board members followed his gaze. Miss Campbell started as my assistant, but she's now our Director of Employee Relations and Strategic Development. She's implemented programs that have transformed how we operate. And I can say without exaggeration that she saved this company. After the meeting, as people filed out, Dominic's grandmother, Catherine, approached Riley. "Walk with me." They strolled through the building's garden courtyard, the elderly woman moving slowly but with dignity. "You've done something remarkable," Catherine said. "You've given my grandson his life back. He did that himself." I just reminded him it was there. Don't be modest. Dominic was drowning in his father's expectations for years. Preston meant well, but he never understood that strength and vulnerability aren't opposites. "You taught Dominic that?" "Has Preston reached out at all?" Catherine sighed. "Not yet. Preston Harrington is a proud man. It may take time, but I have hope." After all, Dominic learned stubbornness from someone. The coffee shop promised that evening. Dominic surprised Riley by taking her back to being there. The coffee shop where they'd had their first real conversation 3 months ago. "I come here now," he admitted as they sat at the same corner table. "Every Friday afternoon? It reminds me of the day I started being honest with someone. Just someone." Riley teased. "Fine. The day I started being honest with you." They ordered sandwiches and coffee, and Riley noticed several people recognizing Dominic. But instead of treating him like an untouchable CEO, they waved or nodded, and he waved back. "You're different now," Riley observed. "More relaxed? I have you to thank for that. You showed me that perfection is exhausting and unnecessary. That being human is actually okay. It's better than okay. It's the whole point." Dominic reached across the table and took her hand. "Riley Campbell, 3 months ago, you walked into my office and called me a robot. You argued with me, challenged me, refused to be intimidated by me, and somehow saw past all my defenses to the person I'd forgotten I could be. Where is this going? I'm not proposing. Not yet. We've only been dating for 3 months, and despite what romantic movies suggest, that's insane." Riley laughed. "Good to know you're still practical. I am making a promise. I promise that I'm going to spend every day trying to be worthy of someone who saw potential in a man everyone else had written off as impossible. I promise to keep learning how to be human, even when it's uncomfortable. And I promise that whatever happens with my father, with the company, with anything, you and I will figure it out together." "Together," Riley repeated, squeezing his hand. "I like the sound of that. One more thing." "What?" "Thank you for being late to your interview. If you'd been on time, I might have actually rejected you out of spite. So my broken heel and subway delay saved us both. Apparently chaos and divine intervention look very similar." He sat in the coffee shop until closing time, talking about everything and nothing, making plans for the future while being perfectly content in the present, as they walked back to Dominic's car. Riley looked up at the Chicago skyline. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "When I took this job, I thought I was just trying to survive. Pay my bills, gain some experience, maybe last longer than 5 weeks. I never imagined I'd end up here. Here as in dating your former boss, in violation of multiple professional boundaries. Here as in happy. Really, genuinely happy. With someone who makes me want to be better while accepting exactly who I am right now." Dominic pulled her close. "That goes both ways. You know that, right?" "I do now." He kissed her softly. And Riley thought about how 3 months ago she'd been a struggling former teacher with broken shoes and impossible dreams. Now she was standing in downtown Chicago, kissing a man who had learned to thaw his frozen heart because she'd been brave enough to see past the ice. 6 months later, the board meeting that changed everything. Conference room was silent as Dominic finished his announcement. "So effective immediately, I'm restructuring the company leadership. I'll remain CEO, but I'm creating a new position, Chief People Officer. This person will have equal authority to me in decisions affecting company culture, employee welfare, and strategic development focused on human capital." A board member raised his hand. And who are you appointing to this position? Riley Campbell. The room erupted in whispers. Riley, sitting in the front row, felt her heart pounding. Another board member spoke up. Mr. Harrington, with all due respect, Miss Campbell has been with the company for less than a year. This seems premature. Dominic's expression remained calm. Miss Campbell has accomplished more in 9 months than most executives achieve in 5 years. She's increased employee retention by 40%, saved us from 3 potential PR disasters, and directly contributed to our strongest financial quarter in company history. The question isn't whether she's qualified. The question is why it took me this long to recognize it officially. The vote was called. 8 in favor, 3 against. Afterward, Riley found Dominic in his office. You didn't warn me you were going to do that. If I had, you would have tried to talk me out of it. You're right, I would have. Equal authority? That's huge. You've earned it. Dominic stood and walked to her. Besides, I learned something from you. The best partnerships are between equals. I don't want an assistant or an employee. I want a partner in every sense of the word. Every sense. He pulled a small box from his desk drawer. Riley's breath caught. No, I said I wasn't going to propose yet. But it turns out waiting for the perfect moment is just another form of fear. And I'm done being afraid. Dominic opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Riley Campbell, you taught me that being human means being vulnerable. That love isn't weakness, it's courage. That the best decisions are made with the heart, not just the head. Will you marry me? Riley felt tears streaming down her face. You're asking me in your office? I'm asking you in the place where we met. Where you called me a robot and I called you unqualified? Where we both started becoming who we were meant to be? Then yes. Absolutely yes. As Dominic slipped the ring on her finger, Maggie's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Harrington, your father is here to see you. They looked at each other. Send him in, Dominic said. Preston Harrington walked into the office, looking older and more tired than Riley remembered. He glanced at Riley's hand and saw the ring. I heard about the board meeting, Preston said stiffly, and I see congratulations are in order. Thank you, Dominic replied, his voice neutral. Preston was quiet for a long moment. I was wrong. The words hung in the air. I spent 30 years trying to mold you into my vision of what a Harrington should be. I was so focused on legacy and appearances that I forgot the most important thing. What's that? Dominic asked. That you're my son, and your happiness matters more than any business empire. Preston looked at Riley. Miss Campbell, I owe you an apology. I judged you without knowing you. I saw you as a threat to everything I'd built, when really you were exactly what Dominic needed. Thank you, Mr. Harrington, Riley said softly. Preston turned back to Dominic. I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I'd like to try to be a better father, if you'll let me. Dominic's jaw was tight, emotions warring across his face. Riley squeezed his hand, and he looked at her. She nodded slightly. It won't be easy, Dominic said finally. You hurt me. For years, I know. But Riley taught me that everyone deserves a chance to change. Even you. Preston's eyes glistened. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but it's what I'm offering. On one condition, name it. You walk Riley down the aisle at our wedding. Because she doesn't have a father to do it, and because I want you to understand what family really means. Not legacy or appearances, but showing up for the people who matter. Preston looked shocked, then nodded. I'd be honored. After Preston left, Riley turned to Dominic. That was incredibly generous. I learned from the best. He pulled her close. You showed me that holding on to anger only freezes your heart. I spent enough years being cold. I'm ready to be warm now. 1 year later, the wedding really stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress for the 100th time. It wasn't a designer gown, just a simple cream dress she'd fallen in love with at a small boutique. But she felt beautiful. Maggie bustled in, carrying flowers. You ready, honey? I'm terrified. Good. Being terrified means it matters. There was a knock at the door. Preston Harrington stepped in, wearing a formal suit and an expression of nervous pride. May I have a moment with the bride? Maggie left discreetly. Preston stood awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable. Riley, I wanted to say something before we walk out there, okay? When Dominic first brought you around, I thought you were wrong for him. I thought you'd distract him, derail him, ruin everything I'd built. Preston's voice cracked slightly. I was completely wrong. You didn't ruin him. You saved him. You gave him back the joy I'd spent years crushing out of him. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. Riley felt tears forming. Mr. Harrington, please call me Preston. We're family now, offered his arm. Shall we? The ceremony was small, held in the garden courtyard of Harrington Tech. Dominic had insisted on getting married where they worked, saying it represented their journey. As Preston walked Riley down the aisle, she saw Dominic waiting at the front. He was crying, not bothering to hide his tears, and when she reached him, he whispered, "You're so beautiful." The ceremony was simple but perfect. When it came time for vows, Dominic spoke first. Riley, 1 year ago, you were late to an interview with a broken shoe and the courage to call me out on my nonsense. You saw past the ice to the person underneath. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that love isn't a distraction, and that the best version of myself is the one I am when I'm with you. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of your faith in me.